Good afternoon.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You guys ready?
Ready.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So last time you were here, we discussed we were going to be conducting further molecular genetic testing to try to figure out what's causing the problems with our little Johnny here. The results we got back from the testing showed a genetic mutation in one of his genes on the chromosome at the FGFR2 gene. A mutation of the specific gene combined with the signs and symptoms he's showing right now has led us to the diagnosis of Jackson-Weiss syndrome. This mutation of the specific gene on one of his chromosomes can explain the malformations of his skull and his face, which were caused by the bones of his head fusing together prematurely and preventing normal growth, as well as skeletal abnormalities of his toes because of the fusing together of the two bones. Good and bad news here we found. So the bad news first is that the disorder is at the genetic level, so it isn't something that we can cure. But good news here is that for you guys and Johnny is that we do have a great team and a great medical staff here. And with the proper care and treatment, he can go on to live a perfectly normal, long, healthy life and develop fully intellectually.
All right, so like Zach has said, this syndrome is a rare genetic disorder and the incidence of it is actually unknown. So it is inherited in an autosomal dominant pattern, which basically just means that either one of you could have had the abnormal gene or he could have had a mutation in his own genes during development as an embryo. So if one of you were to have the gene and you were to have another pregnancy, there's a 50% chance that you would pass it on again. So, we could go about further testing if you wanted to, if you thought about other pregnancies, or we can try to figure out if it was just an abnormal mutation in his own gene. So, like Zach said, it's the FGFR2 gene, and during normal growth, this gene signals immature cells to become bone cells during development. And with a mutation, there's an overstimulation of the FGFR2 protein, and that's what causes the early fusion of the skull bones. So because of the early fusion, the skull doesn't grow normally, so you see things like eyes that are spaced far apart from each other and a bulging forehead. And then mutations also lead to defects in the bones in the feet and how they develop. So this is why the big toes are short and wide and they bend away from the other toes. And it's possible to see the bones of the toes fused together in some cases. So the disorder appears to affect both males and females in equal numbers, but like I've already said, the incidence rates are currently unknown. So all we do know right now is that the prevalence is really small, and it's said to be less than 1 out of every 1 million people, and the onset is neonatal.
And so we were talking about how it is a genetic disorder and whatnot. So if you guys wanted, if you were thinking about maybe having another kid in the future, we could go about some genetic testing. What that involves, it's a blood test. So we look at the direct mutation of the gene. We take about 3 to 6 milliliters of whole blood, and what we're doing is we're looking for the sequencing of that FGFR2 and even the FGFR3 gene. So we take that, and from that we can see if which one of you may be carriers, if it was just a mutation through the development of the pregnancy, and if there's any future risks involved. If you do have another baby, a lot of times, like we are with Johnny, we kind of discover this later. It is possible to find the different characteristics prenatally. A lot of times we just see those different signs and symptoms with the toes and whatnot prenatally. So also, before we leave, we want to leave you with just a little bit more information. There's a great website that we refer most of our people to that have incidences like this. It's called rarediseases.org. I'll give you a pamphlet before you guys take off. So it's a great website. Lots of information on the disease, how to kind of monitor it and treat it, and make sure Johnny's having an all right time with going through this. On the website as well, there's a list of different organizations and support groups that we can refer you to. So this is a rare disease, but there are other people throughout the country that have the same disease. So, there's plenty of people out there for support if you need to talk to another family that's going through it. This gives you a great list of information for that. So we'll make sure we give you that before you take off. But, anything else?
Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
All right, great. Well, good luck with everything.
Great meeting you.
We're here.
Okay.
We're here if you need anything. Take care.